Hello，你好，欢迎回来。Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on August 4th, 2021. And happy birthday to my dad, even though he doesn't watch my Wisdom Wednesday, but feel the need to say it anyway. So, today I want to talk about a topic that I might have mentioned before. Well, I know I have mentioned many times before, but it keep coming up with relating to ancient Chinese. But I don't remember if I have actually talked about this in detail before. So if I have, excuse me, getting old and senile, can't remember. So we'll talk about it again. Uh, I'm going to talk about the imperial exam, the dreaded, the famous, the infamous imperial exams of ancient China. What is the imperial exam? Well, for the last 2000 years, all the way up to the end of monarchy imperial system in China, the only way for a commoner to rise above his own station, and yes, I say his, because for the most part, women were not encouraged to study, and most women were not allowed to write imperial exams. I have heard of cases where women would disguise themselves as guys, as men, or were able to write the exam, but I don't know if that actually happened or not. So, it's mostly for men, and it's the only way for a commoner to rise above their station. Uh, there were many, many perks, which we'll talk about at the end of the video. So, how hard was it to get to write this imperial exam? Well, uh, number one, it only happened once every 10 years, which means if you fail, then you gotta wait for another 10 years to write it. Second, it only happened in one location, the imperial city. So even if you lived all the way out there in Mongolia, if you want to write the imperial exam, you got to travel to the imperial city, which is a lot harder than it sounds because back then there's no airplane, there's no car, no train. So for you to get to the imperial city, you got to go thousands of miles, either on horseback or in a wagon or on foot, deal with extreme weather conditions and deal with highwaymen and robberies and all kind of unpleasant stuff you might run into on the way. And that's assuming you even have the money for horses or wagon. Now, if you are like a lot of commoners, a lot of these people who try to write these imperial exams, they were really poverty-stricken scholar type. So if you are one of those people, then you have to either walk there yourself, which might as well not do it because you're not going to make it, or they give rise to an interesting old custom, like the very early form of sugar daddy. What am I talking about? Back then, a lot of rich people, rich commoner, I should say, businessmen, merchants, they will seek out a scholar who is very promising, very smart, but very poor. And the merchant will say to the scholar, I will pay for your way to the exam. I will give you horses, I'll give you buggies, I'll give you escorts, I will help you get there. I'll pay for food and lodging and everything. Uh, but in return, once you pass the exam, and you have to take me in. Me, my family, everyone that worked for me, we will work for you. If you become the mayor, then I will become your second in command, and my wife will become the person who is in charge of finance, and my escort will become your bodyguard, and so on and so on. So it's a mutual parasitic association. They pay for you to get there, and you write the exam, and you succeed, and they will leech onto you for the rest of their life. Once you get to the imperial exam in Beijing, during the time of the imperial exam, the hotels are free of charge. You can stay at hotels and inns for free of charge because There's so many people flocking to the imperial city at that time. The scholars themselves, the tens of thousands of scholars, and then their escort, their family members, their friends, and these sugar daddies, merchants, and their escort. So even if they were to give you free lodgings, they still make a lot of money for food and drinks and entertainment. So they don't mind. Also, the innkeepers and hotel owners wanted to make sure that if you were to pass the exam, if you became someone important, you will remember them fondly and turn around and give them some benefits. So again, we are looking at another parasitic symbiotic relationship over here. On the day of the exam, you have to go check in at the exam ground. You have to go through two checkpoints, and this is where things get very, very serious. Up to this point, things are difficult, but now we're talking about life and death matters. The law was that if you get to the second checkpoint and they find little personal notes or attempts at cheating, trying to sneak something in, if they find something on you, that is missed by the first checkpoint, then without even a trial or any second chance, you and everyone who's in charge of the first checkpoint will be taken out and executed on the spot for attempting to cheat the emperor. So remember that the imperial exam were always hosted by the emperor. So trying to cheat the exam means you're trying to cheat the emperor. Trying to cheat the emperor means treason, and it's execution on the spot. So these guards are very, very thorough. They have to be. Otherwise, if they get caught neglecting their duty, they get executed. Once you pass the checkpoint, they make you strip out of your clothes and they give you like a hospital gun that you have to write your exam in, just to make sure that you're not sneaking anything inside your clothes. Now, you have to bring your own food and water in for the exam. These exams typically last 9 days. So during the exam, no one is allowed to talk to you. No one's allowed to see you. So you have to bring your own food and water that will last for 9 days. So without a doubt, whatever food you choose to bring, whatever water container you choose to bring, they will be examined by the guard to make sure you're not hiding any notes in them as well. Oh, I forgot to mention, these exams, you never know what you're going to be quizzed on. It's quite crazy because you never know the topic ahead of time. So since they only happen once every 10 years, your best bet is spend your 10 years trying to study as much and on as many subjects as you can. Otherwise, you might run into a situation where you study 10 years of science and history, and then you run into an examiner or an emperor who is only interested in math, and you just wasted your last 10 years studying the wrong subject. So that's another thing that why these exams were very, very difficult because you never know what you're going to get quizzed on. There's never been any multiple choices. All the answers have to be written out as poems or essays uh, to and they're judged by the merit of your answer, if you answer incorrectly, or if you entertain the emperor with your answer, and also you're judged on the how your handwriting look. Another little tidbit about this exam is at any given year when you attend the exam, if any of the examiner have the same family name as yours, even if you weren't related, if they have the same family name as yours, you are automatically disqualified. You'll have to come back 10 years later and hopefully 10 years later is a different examiner because they will not take the chance of the examiner and you might be related and they help you cheat. Once you get through all this checkpoints and security thing, you're escorted into a little cubicle about the size of one of those bathrooms on the airplane. not even big enough for you to lay down in. You have to stay in this cubicle for 9 days, writing your exam. No one's allowed to talk to you. You are not allowed to step out of this cubicle. Anytime you leave the cubicle is automatically disqualified. You might as well go home. In this cubicle is a chair, a table, a chamber pot, and paper, ink, and writing instrument. The rest, food, water, you have to bring yourself. Uh, it was very common for people to go mad while writing the exam and have a mental breakdown, or people who commit suicide. That happened a lot during these exams because of the horrible condition they have to write the exam in and the immense amount of pressure they're under. Just think, anytime you walk out of the cubicle, you're disqualified. Anytime you talk to someone, you're disqualified. And if you have a sugar daddy, a sponsor, waiting for you out there, you don't want to fail the exam because you know if you fail the exam, you have to pay back every cent you owe them and make your own way home. They are not going to help you back to Mongolia. Now you're of no use to them. You failed the exam. Um, so failing exam is very, very serious business. Before starting the exam, the examiner will put up three banners on top of the watchtower. The banners is red, blue, and black. The red banner is for the gods, for the gods to bless everyone who's involved for the exam to be fair and just and glorious. The blue banner is for the ancestors, for your ancestors to know that you are here to write the exam, and please feel proud of your achievement and for them to smile down upon you. The black banner is the most controversial banner. The black banner is for all the demons and evil spirits, all the wandering spirits around. And the black banner is to call these spirits to you. If any one of them have a grudge against you, they are encouraged to settle this during the exam so they can help you fail the exam, make you fail the exam, or kill you in there. Don't forget, because if you pass the exam, you might be working for the emperor. So the emperor don't want any murderers or rapists or people like that working for him, ideally. So the idea is if you have wronged someone, if you have murdered someone, if you raped someone, if there's a evil spirit out there looking for you, this black banner will call the spirit to you and get you killed in this 9 days. No matter if it's a superstition or not, there has been many, many, many horror stories, ghost stories happen during imperial exams. If we want to talk about these ghost stories, how people die mysteriously and in the most horrific ways, under suspicious circumstances, we can probably do like an entire year of Wisdom Wednesday on those. But we're not going to go into that today. So if it's so difficult, why do so many people want to write the exam? Well, because of all the perks it comes with. Number one, for you to work for the government, for you to become a minister, a mayor, a judge, anything like that, uh, the only way is for you to pass the exam. Anyone who passed the exam can be considered for a government job. Number two, for you to get any kind of welfare, you have to pass the exam. Back then, there's no low income welfare, no child support payment, nothing like that. If you pass the exam, but for some reason there's no job for you, the government will give you money every month to keep you around until they have a job for you. So, for the only kind of social welfare system back then, you have to pass the exam. Otherwise, it's to make your own living or starve to death. Third, only people who passed an imperial exam had the legal right to own servants. So when we watch Chinese movies, we see a lot of rich people have servants. That's never happened. It never worked like that. The only people that could own servants and maids and slaves were people who passed imperial exams. And depending on the dynasty and the emperor, there have been many other perks for people who pass these exams. For example, in the Ming dynasty, anyone who passed an imperial exam had three get out of death free card. Three get out of death free card. That means if you pass an imperial exam, you can commit three crimes, no matter the crime. Three crimes that if they result in death penalties, you get three chances not to get that death penalty. That's how powerful, that's how alluring it was for people to get these imperial exam, to pass the imperial exam. You basically uh, become uh, better than anyone else besides you. Even judges and a lot of imperial noble people have to bow down to you because you are now an official scholar of the emperor and not an ordinary person. There's a lot more about the imperial exam. That if we want to talk about all of them, we will be here for the next week every day. But I hope that today we given you enough tidbit information to shine light on what was the imperial exam all about. Thank you for checking out today's Wisdom Wednesday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Toy Thursday. For now, have a good night.